Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday. I hope everybody had a fantastic Easter. If you haven't yet, make sure that you go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. And first off, I just want to say that on last Sunday, we didn't have a live stream. I put out a video, and it happened to be about the housing crash and how I believe that as much as things have changed over time, that things are not going to be crashing this specific year. I didn't say it wasn't going to crash at all, but I'm saying we're not looking at it to happen in the next 12 months. And I gave my reasons why. A lot of you that are subscribed to my channel felt like that I had been lying to you from previous videos. But what I was in every single month, I'm presenting you with the information that I see at that specific moment. So if you feel like you were deceived in any way, that's truly 100% not my intention. My intention is always to be 100% honest with you. So with that, we're going to just move forward. You will not see another housing crash video from me unless there is something that has changed in the market, something that indicates that there is a churn in the market. Once that happens, yes, I will make another one. But until that time, with the amount of inventory that's on the market right now, and it doesn't look like builders are going to be able to build as quickly as they anticipated, it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year in 2021. It will not happen this year. But let's just move on from that. Like we're all good. I don't know if you guys noticed. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Besides my video on Sunday, I cut my hair off. Yes, I know, totally not related to real estate, but this girl needed a change, so I lopped off my hair. Look, like this is a piece of my hair on how much it was. I had taken off. That was a lot of hair, and I originally made it blonde, then it went to gray, and now I made it purple because I can't help myself. But anyways, we're gonna talk about real estate and what's happening with the inventory, because we have an inventory crisis going throughout the United States. You can go into any housing market and it's almost impossible to find homes, especially homes in this price range that would be considered like first time home buyer or middle of the road, a second home buyer. So we have one of my favorite guests. His name is Terry, the real estate guy, but I call him Terry, my favorite real estate guy. And here he is. He's one of my favorite ones. He's been on the show before. You guys might have remembered when my power shut down and he kind of like took over the stream. So he's always that was still like one of the most classic moments for me in doing live streaming was my power goes out and you take over the stream like a champ.
Are there any thunderstorms forecast in your area today?
It is a splendid day day outside. So I know it's what on your mind. You got to tell me, what do you think of my hair, Terry?
I like it a lot.
If you said you hated it, I could just immediately just
Yeah, that's right.
Kick you right off the street. But I wouldn't do that. People are allowed to hate it.
Did you notice I have my Masters hat on for Masters Sunday today?
I hate sports.
Okay, well.
I'm not a sports person. Like every time Eddie has something, all I hear is that roar of the crowd all the time. And what blows my mind with sports now, like I'm like, oh, thank God I can actually watch sports because I don't have to hear that roar of the crowd. And they added it to it. I'm like, don't do that. It was better just quiet. I'd rather hear the sound of like the ball hitting the bat and the people like peeling off their gloves. And I would have rather hearing that than that fake crowd noise. I don't know. I don't make the rules.
Well, for the golfers on here, although maybe there won't be, they might be watching the Masters right now. So, but yeah, this is my ceremonial hat.
All right. So in your housing market, my friend, there is a inventory crisis like never seen in history of real estate, and it's getting no better anywhere. Everywhere I've looked, the numbers are crazy. So what do you got going on in your specific area as far as inventory?
Yeah, so we're in 3 markets. I'm an investor / agent / real estate statistician, I guess. But so the 3 markets, we're in Huntsville, Alabama. Like there are only days of inventory on the market there. Atlanta, Georgia, that metro Atlanta area, same thing, just probably a couple of weeks. And the other market that we're in is Greenville, South Carolina. And that market seems to be not quite as heated, but still pretty hot. So I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hottest, I think they're all 9s or 10s right now because of inventory. And, I thought the rates were going to go up. and slow things down a little bit on this last little run that the rates made, but looks
It
like
made
they're back down a little bit,
even when they went up, that made a frenzy even worse. It
Yeah.
actually was like people were like, "Oh, I better get in quick before the rates go back up," so like even more. It even made like honestly, my phone rang more when that little tiny tick of the rates going up. It normally we have about 6 months supply this time of year. We have normally about in this specific little county I live in, about 2,000 homes, 1,500 to 2,000 homes that are, circling through with new construction and everything else. We have 189 homes for sale, and 25% of them are proposed construction.
Oh
That's
my
it.
goodness.
It's
Did you see
terrible.
the news article that said there's like 1 million homes for sale, but there's 1.4 million real estate agents?
Yes, yeah,
That's
there's more real
wild.
estate agents than there are houses for sale. Yes,
Yeah.
that is a true statistic. But you gotta remember, there's a lot of people that hold their license that they just have a license. I mean,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't.
think about that. If 20% of the realtor population, that means there's even less, right?
Mhm.
So it is remarkable to think about.
Yep, yep.
Some of the agents will definitely be leaving the business, I'm sure, because you can't survive in a market that you can't make a living.
But a lot of them got in it that shouldn't have never gotten in it.
Oh, sure.
In the last couple years, because the markets were so good, there was a lot of people that were like when you're sitting there having to handhold your real estate agent to tell them how to fill out a, purchase agreement, that's messed up.
Yeah, agreed.
Or you're asking, "Where's that addendum? Your client needs to fill out this property disclosure," and they're not doing that. That's a problem. That's a real problem.
How long have you been licensed, Kristina?
This is my 14th year.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going on 20, and I
Mhm.
always tell people, you really, if you want to find a house, you really have to go with the 10 plus year veterans, in my opinion, that have a book of business because they know the people that are going to be moving. To me, the secret is finding an agent that has the ability to go and find you off market properties. And an agent that's been in the business 10 years usually has 500, 1,000 people in their phone that they can start calling and saying, "Hey, you're thinking about moving."
Yeah, one of my most successful, transactions happened because it was just because I have a bank of people, and I had this couple that had been looking for a house, and then I met with somebody, they were thinking about selling their house, and after I had taken this couple around everywhere, I'm like, "I do know one other house that's not for sale yet, but I can call her and see if we can go look for it, look at it really quick. She doesn't have it quite ready to put on the market." And they're like, "We'll just go look at it," because they were on a time crunch. They walked through and they're like, "This is the perfect house." And I'm like, I looked at her, I'm like, "I know you weren't ready to list, but do you want to sell it now?" And she's like, "Yeah, you know, but
Yeah.
that's just how the market is right now. You got to have somebody that, like you said, that has a bank of business, that has those people that are thinking about selling, but haven't quite put it on the market yet. That's why a lot of times you'll see houses that do hit the market and they're instantly under contract. You're like, "How did that happen?" Well, it happened just like I told you. And it's not that we're doing anything sneaky. It's just one of those
Yeah.
things that just happens. It just
Yeah. You don't
happens.
pay any extra for that either. So first time home buyer is out there, you're best served by finding somebody who's been in the market at least 5 years or more.
My
Because
biggest worry though is that what these home buyers are doing, Terry.
oh yeah,
Um,
I don't understand. I mean, it's like this. It's FOMO, right? Fear of missing out.
yeah, but the what concerns me is that because I was looking at some old news clips from years ago, and I was having Eddie listen to this, and it was talking about a lot of people that had that FOMO when they were buying in the big wave the last time before the last housing crash, and how they had gotten in over their head and they had a house that was basically a lemon. Like they
Mm.
didn't know it had termites because they forego that kind of inspection. They didn't know that the house had structural problems because they decided not to get an inspection. They didn't know all this stuff about their home that they purchased, and it was like it was too late at that point because they already had signed on the dotted line and they gave away all their rights. And that I'm very concerned for what's going to happen for those people and for the real estate agents that allowed for that to happen.
Oh
Um,
yeah, lawsuits. You mean the potential legalities of it all?
right, right. And if it was, if I'm not saying anybody should do this or whatever, but if it was me as a real estate agent representing a home buyer, if you were going to let go of all those things, I would have an addendum that says, yes, I understand my real estate agent has explained this to me. And this is the reasons why I'm doing, like, like she said to get an inspection. I decided not to. She said not to waive the appraisal. I decided not to, do these things, and have them sign it so they're aware. And then they're protected. So you can say, I did tell you this before.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you're protected as a real estate agent, but it does confuse me. Eddie, do you have any questions that you want to throw up? Go ahead, Terry. You can say what you need to say there.
Oh, no, I was just thinking the same thing. That is a great, if there are agents listening to the call, you got to protect yourself. I mean, even, being investors, we flip houses. We're doing the same thing. We're encouraging them to go ahead and get inspections, even if we take their offer without an inspection, just because I don't want to sell a house to someone who doesn't want to buy them. And I think I read an article on Redfin recently that the buyer's remorse rate is through the roof right now, 35-40%. They polled, I don't know, a couple hundred people that just recently bought houses and asked them if they had remorse or buyer's remorse, right? And there was a significantly high number of people that did, and probably for the same reason, right? They're overpaying. They got in the house and realized it had more issues than they thought it did. They just got emotionally charged up, and once that logical brain kicks back in, certainly can make you feel like you made the wrong decision.
I can see why it would happen, though. You're going from house and getting another offer, and the house you really wanted has gone now. And then you're going to the next house, and you're going to the next house, and you're going to the next house, and you're so worn down by that time, you're settling. And you settle for something not in the area, not for the price, and then you get in there and you're like, why did I do this? I can see how it happens, because you're so emotionally exhausted at that point. You're just like, I'll just take anything.
Yeah.
I wonder what the repercussions of all this are going to be. Let's see. Question. Joe G said, Kristina Smallhorn, what will happen to taxes with everyone paying over appraised values and insurance rates? Well, I don't know how it is in your area, and I don't know how it is for you either, Terry, but in our specific area, property taxes can only go up a certain percentage every tax season. You can't, even though, let's just say your house was 300,000 last year and it's 500,000 now, that tax rate, your property tax rate, can't go up to 500,000 appraised value. It only has an increment amount that it can go up per year once you've lived in that home. What is it for you in your area, Terry?
I think they do. They can go in and reassess the property every year. Sometimes the county that I live in does it. Sometimes they don't do it. But it just depends. I've noticed, I think they've reassessed our property a couple of times where the rate that my taxes have gone up. Now, right. I know some states, if you file for homestead, it just depends on each state. Like some states, I think if you file for homestead, right, it kind of locks you in and they can't go up any further, but
right.
I'm not
we
sure.
have homestead here, but your homestead is only for the first $75,000 of the house, and everything after that is taxable, property taxable, only for the homesteader property. But even if they reassess the value, they can't, like I said, if it went up, 200,000 and your assessed value is at, $100,000 more, they can't add that to your tax rate. It only can be incrementally X amount of percentage per year.
Okay.
So, which seems fair to me. I get it, and because that would kill people, especially, when the market goes up extremely high. Now, I know some other states, it doesn't matter if your appraised value goes up, so does your property taxes.
Yep.
And they kick people in the butt. So you have to kind of check with your specific area. And if you're not homestead in your area, get yourself homesteaded. There's no reason not to. It's a tax deduction.
Yeah. For us, it ends up being the $200 or $300 a year, but $200 or $300 a year is a lot of money.
Yes. Eddie, you got another question for us to throw up? Question. What is the forecast for those that want to sell, but prices are too high to even afford to buy a replacement? What do you say, Terry?
I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. He's a single guy, has a great job at a BMW store here in town. And I was like, Dimitri, just sell the house and go get one of those really nice swanky apartments really close to your work and just wait about 18 months. I said, that's what you should do as a single guy. But I think you're trading, equity for equity, right? I mean, it hurts if you're going to go spend more, because those prices are higher, and you're paying, I think you're overpaying for anything you buy right now. Honestly, in our market, I wouldn't be, personally, if I didn't have to be, I wouldn't be house shopping.
Yeah, but it depends. Like it's kind of like, where do you put your money? Because like, let's just say, yeah, the market does tank, but the interest rates are going to be up. So at one point, you're paying one way or the other. You're paying the piper.
Agreed.
So do you want to pay? Do you want to pay less of an interest rate and more for the property, or do you want to pay more? It just, you have to weigh it out. It's like,
and it depends on the financial situation you're in. Because I think that's part of the frenzy too, right? We're in this kind of
depends on the market. You're right.
Payment-centered mentality, right? People they're shopping payment. They're not necessarily shopping home prices at this point. So,
yes.
In 20 years, this is the first time we've been into, hey, what do you want your payment to be? You normally hear that when you go to a car dealership. I want this $70,000 car. Well, what do you want your payment to be? And then they try to you in the car from there, right? And I feel like that's where we're at in the housing market.
Yeah, I've even seen like 40-year loans, which really only takes it down like $75 on the payment.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why would you add another 10 years to your loan for $75? That blew my mind.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, and I've said this in a comment recently, it depends on your specific market. That's why I always advise you to check with your local real estate professional that you trust on what they feel that you should do. If they say this is the most I've ever seen the market going to go up, I don't think it's not going to sustain for a few more months. Listen to them, because they know their specific little micro area. But I agree with Terry's advice as well. It just depends on your market. Always listen to your specific real estate professional in your area. All of these YouTubers are making a blanket statement, including myself, for the whole entire country. But your specific little area is going to make all the difference to you in the world, because what's going on in Chicago is not the same thing that's going on in Springfield. That's not the same thing that's going on in Atlanta.
I think it's safe to say, though, I used to say 5 years. If you're going to live in it 5 years, you should be good if you want to buy. I've really kind of moved that 7 to 10.
Yes.
Simply because we don't know. I mean, like you're right. It is all micro market. And, our job is to make these videos, and we're looking at more national stats than we are hyper local. But I mean, look at Austin, Texas, for example. A friend of mine is trying to find a house down there, and she said she's having to pay $50,000 or $100,000 over ask on a normally priced house in Austin. Well, if you look at what's going on in the Austin market, Tesla just moved in, and things are going to keep going well for Austin, right? They're not, and compared to Southern California, Austin looks like a bargain. Yes. And so people love moving into Austin. To us that are living in the Southeast, we look at Austin and go, holy cow, that market is superheated. But it may not be, as long as jobs keep moving in.
Yes. And I don't think they're going to go down, because I don't know if you know this, but I found this little article at the bottom of the middle of this. Just thing that kind of tucked away in the housing, but in that specific market, and in even Phoenix, Arizona, and some places in Nevada, the big tech companies are going to the auction houses and they're purchasing the foreclosed properties. They're fixing them up and they're renting them out to their employees. Like, that's what they're doing, And so, like, it's even squeezing the market even more. So I really feel for the people that have lived in the Austin area their whole lives. Like the person that's been a millennial and they've had the income that would be coming with living in the Austin area, and then all of a sudden Austin exploded, and you've been saving for a house for the last 4 years, and you were just about that at that moment, like you could have purchased. But now the housing market has increased so much, over 100,000. You're like, I'm priced out of my own market, and I've lived here for years. It's unfair. It's unfair. I don't know how to fix it, though. I don't know what the answer
is. Good news.
is.
I think there's tons of land still, or Austin has room to blow out, just like Atlanta has done. LA has,
oh yeah, there's plenty of dirt. But
Yeah.
but there's no building materials. You can't. There's nothing you can buy.
Yeah.
Like there is no building materials. It's impossible to find lumber. Like a house that would have cost like $10,000 to frame now cost $30,000 to frame in lumber. That's
Yeah.
a significant price increase in lumber. Significant. Even OSB board, that is another one that's gone up 75%. That's a lot of money in the cost of building a house. Cabinetry, of course, causes, that's the cost of wood as well. All your wood flooring, everything is going to cost more. So, of course, the house that normally would have cost $300,000 to build for the builder, and they would have made their money. Now he's going to have to charge $600,000 to break even for what he would have sold that same house 2 years ago for $300,000. It's insanity.
Yeah. In Greenville, they basically stopped building specs. Even though there's a housing shortage, they stopped building specs because of the price of materials. They don't even know what they can build a house for right now.
Yeah.
And so they basically said, that's fine. If you want to buy a house, you're going to have to wait. And we're not building these 10 in a row to sell because we can't really sell them until we really know what we have in them. So it's just really interesting how the builders are slowing down. And maybe it was on your show last time, someone had mentioned that out in California, the builders have escalation clauses built into their contracts. Maybe you told me that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and like they can change the price at the end, and they're like, if you don't want it, then too bad.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I don't even know how you get away with that.
Question: do you believe that it's time? This is the time in the housing bubble that it will be different, very different from the 2008 crash, because the government has told the banks to help the homeowners with their loan at all costs. I get it. Help their loan at all costs. Okay, I get what you're saying. What he's saying is that how is it going to be different than 2008 crash? And yes, there is a difference. And I talked about that in my last video. The biggest difference is most of the people that were affected by the 7, 8, all that housing crash period, they had a kooky loan, which was an interest only loan, and they were living beyond their means. They were told that you can qualify for a $300,000 house, when really and technically they probably only should have gotten a $200,000 house. And so instead they bought.
Kristina, you there? Was that her internet, y'all? If somebody could comment, or is it me? Oh, are you out again?
That is the funniest thing. Do you have me on speaker?
I do. I was like, what just happened? I said, I thought maybe it was me.
No, are you still live?
I am, yes. Yep. You got some cool, fun comments.
Yeah, my live stream, my generator just started, so I'll be able to come right back on again.
Oh my goodness, your generator went out. And here, let me turn you up on speaker. Can you all hear her? Go
yeah.
Okay, I've got you.
The lights went out in my house again, which is so funny. This must be a curse between Terry and I.
I think it's me. Yeah.
But the generator just kicked on. I have a whole house generator, so I'll be back on the stream in 2 seconds. Let's handle up some questions.
All right. Let's see. That what was that one we were talking about? The government. Yeah, the government helping people out. Do we think it's going to be similar to 2008?
The difference between the 2008 and what's the difference to this one?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see a mass wave of foreclosures necessarily. I think we're going to see the storm clouds coming on this one. I mean, the rates keep flip-flopping around and they keep going lower and things are good. And, back then, I remember showing 20 houses in a weekend, and there were only 2 that I would have bought, right? So I would only advise my client to make an offer on one of the 2. But today, all those 20 houses are going because we don't have any houses for sale. So even the fixer-uppers are being scooped up by people today. Where we're back in 04, 05, 06, that wasn't the case. Only the really nice homes were selling. But, we have a lot different situation today. I don't think the next housing correction crash, whatever you want to call it, is going to look anything like what we have going on right now. I do believe, though, maybe like you, Kristina, if rates get up close to 4.5%, 5% with these housing prices, we're going to have some sort of inventory build.
Yes, and I'm still waiting for the inventory that would have been normal, typical inventory because of corporations moving, employees, which that hasn't happened. I talked to somebody that does relocation, and she said, normally this time of year, I have so much business from, all these different corporations moving employees. She's like, I barely have like maybe 5 listings right now. And of course they sold really fast, but I have nothing coming in.
Yeah.
And this would be like normally the time that she would be having a lot of that kind of, movement in her business.
Here's another question. Matt Osty, sorry, Matt, if I mispronounce it, says, first time home buyer, buy brand new construction or buy whatever I can get into?
Me, I would say new construction. What do you say?
Yeah, if it's apples to apples and you can get into new construction for that same price as a first time home buyer, the idea of buying something and not having any maintenance to do for 5, 6, 7 years, I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. The computer's warming up, and now I'm just waiting for the internet to catch up.
Here's a good one, because I know you've done some where to retire videos. Joyce Foster says, question, I have enough equity in my home that we could buy close to the beach to retire, sell now and wait for beach prices to go down, or wait to sell and buy?
Hold on one second. I can't. And my husband's trying to talk to me. Go ahead one more time.
It says, Joyce Foster asks, I have enough equity in my home that we could buy close to the beach and retire. Should I sell now and wait for beach prices to go down, or wait to sell and buy?
If it was like this is the same as what you were saying earlier in her specific for her specific question, if it was my area, I would tell her I would pull out my equity. I wouldn't wait any longer till then August to pull out her equity, and then I'd sit in a rental for 18 months and then I'd buy them. That would be me.
Yeah, mine would be the same advice. And I think if you're going to retire and you want to be by the beach, maybe rent for a year down by the beach and see what it's like. Take your time finding the house that you really want.
And the area that you like.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Because there's a lot of, I don't know where she lives, but there's a lot of nice areas. I'm thinking Florida. That's kind of where my brain went. Do you retire in the Panhandle and the Gulf Coast of Alabama, Tampa, whatever. So let's see. Oh, here we go. This is a really good one, and you've got some expertise in this. Teresa Perry says, I think more people are living off grid too. If you think of purchasing a modular home, no one recommends a maker. They are still trying to push the overrated manufactured homes.
And the reason for that is that this is the weirdest thing about modular homes, is they're not nationwide about modulars. They're usually a specific area about a modular. I know of one modular home company that I would recommend because I actually have physically gone to their facility and watched them put together one of their modular homes. I don't recommend any others because I haven't been to their facilities. I've been reaching out to some just recently because I'm going to be traveling a lot more. But modular homes are wonderful. And the more you can find out about them is you can go to consumeraffairs.com and you can see if there's been any, complaints about them, even from some of the employees, because you want to hear what they have to say because they had to work there. So they know exactly what goes on behind the scenes. The other one is betterbusinessbureau.com. I know I get a lot of flack about that. Some people are like, that's a paid service and anybody can put their stuff on there, but I still find there's benefit in that. And one of my favorite places to get good feedback is to go on Twitter and look at their business page and see all the ats. If people they'll tag a company if they have had a lot of complaints. So they'll tag that company over and over and over again. So you just have to kind of do a lot more due diligence than you would with a typical home builder when it comes to modular homes. I always refer people to to the Better Business Bureau and the Consumer Affairs to check out what's been written on there about the company itself.
Yep. I saw the one that I think you're talking about Boxable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kristina did an incredible two videos, I think, on that company and how they do things. It was really, really neat to kind of, because I'm into this whole alternative housing, the 3D printed stuff is still very, very new. The one thing I worry about with the 3D printed stuff is if you get the mixture wrong, what cracks over time. Like there's lots of things. I still think building in an area like Boxable, right, a climatized environment is the way to go, and then bring it and put it together on site.
I'll tell you another thing that people don't talk about very often when it comes to the 3D printed homes is the actual machine that pours the concrete must remain level the entire time they're pouring it. So even though it may be only an hour, 2 hours, maybe even 4 hours, if it gets off kilter just by a little bit, like a rock shifts or anything, so does the pouring of that concrete. Think about it like a piece of paper in your printer itself. If it's just slightly off, the whole print itself looks weird.
Yep.
It looks a little off. So you don't want that to happen to your house. They haven't addressed that issue yet. There's a couple neighborhoods that are going to be starting out. One of them, I believe, is in New Jersey, and the other one's in California. That will be all 3D printed homes. And they've been prefacing this is that it's always going to be an affordable housing option. Well, every time I've looked these up, they're not affordable at all. They're not an affordable housing option. I mean, the ones in California are, over $500,000, and they're only like 1,200 square feet. And they're side by side, like one right after another. And then the other areas in New Jersey, those ones were a little bit more reasonable, but they kind of had almost a hybrid. It wasn't a full 3D printed house. It was a little bit of hybrid of both. Like a hybrid of modular to 3D printed, which made more sense to me anyway. Yeah.
Well, and the thing with the 3D printed houses is, you bring that into a county that is not used to having it or is not progressive at all, or wants to see those kinds of changes happen in their local municipality, then you're not going to bring that stuff in. Some company like Boxable, if you can meet all the national codes and get all that stuff squared away, it's not as scary, I don't think, when you can show a county, hey, this is a product I want to put up. Here's what it is. Come look at this one. I've got one set up in my backyard, like for you to come look at it. I think you got better buy-in, but I like personally, I like the 3D printed stuff. I think it's cool, but you're right. I want to see a 3D printed house 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and see how it stacks up.
We'll see about that.
Yeah.
I'm at that because apparently my internet it to my phone and try to do it from there because I do have a hotspot. So this will come from my laptop. It won't sound as pretty as it normally does, but
okay.
While I'm doing that, you want to throw up another question?
I do. Yep. Let's see here. Art H is, I think the fix is people need to buy land and build their own homes. The less you rely on someone else, the better off you are.
Well, that's true about everything.
Yeah, for sure.
The one thing, though, is even if you're wanting to build your own deck in your own backyard, it doesn't make the price of lumber any cheaper. It doesn't make the price of concrete any cheaper. You're just spending less on labor, It's still just as equally as expensive as it's been.
I did. I don't know if you've checked into container homes much, but in Greenville, there's actually a builder in Greenville that's building container homes. Now they're not cheap. It's about $141 a square foot by the time it's all said and done. But they're super luxurious, very nice, very unique looking, and I think that was for like 900 square feet. So it's more expensive to build 900 square feet than it is 1,600 square feet when you calculate price per square foot. So as you get bigger, right, the price per square foot goes down. So, a 900 square foot house still has to have a kitchen, bath, countertops, all that stuff. And he's building a 900 square foot container home to use it as an Airbnb for 140 square foot. But the cool thing about it is it's going to take 2 months to 3 months as opposed to 3 to 6 months to finish. If you like those kind of things, right? I like the unique look of a container house.
I like them, and they are good quality. The only problem is that you have a lot of problems with container homes and permanent because they were never originally designed for long-term living use. They're meant for shipping stuff. So there's like all these. You have to make certain kinds of windows. You're going to have to work really closely with your permitting office to make sure that they have the amount of windows you need for egress and ingress and fire hazards and everything else. They will, if they do not want that home there, the permitting offices can make your life miserable, miserable. But if you work with them ahead of time with your container home and you're willing to build it yourself, it could be fine. I've seen a lady that was like burying these into a side of a mountain, and she has like made this whole little hobbit community. It looks so cute. It's the cutest little thing you've ever seen out of containers.
They will rust eventually. I mean, I guess you could waterproof them, but interesting. Yeah. Let's see.
I think I might be able to get in here. Let's just see here.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay, Army Dude. I'm going to bring this one up while Kristina is trying to jump on here. He says, keep in mind the data says that there are 1.2 million in default. Are not all truly behind. They're using the money to invest. I know several. They don't have to pay. It's ridiculous. I agree. I think there are a lot of people gaming. Oh, there she is. I think there she is. A lot of people gaming the system, and there she is. She's back. All right.
I'm using my cell phone. That's why you're in my living room now. So my audio may be terrible, and I think my camera is even cloudy. But who cares?
The audio sounds pretty good, actually. So
good. Well, if you can just keep moving forward. I'm just gonna clean this camera off.
Yeah. So I think you're right. A lot of people are taking advantage of the forbearance plans because they can, whether they needed it or not, and a lot of them have. I mean, I think I counted up. It's up to. Kristina might know this better than me. Up to it's like 18 months. People could have not made a house payment if you go all the way back with the forbearance extensions that have been granted, and a lot of people have taken advantage of that have jobs that don't necessarily need to. I agree that there are people taking advantage of the situation, no doubt. But I don't believe. I think you're right. I mean, if they're in default, that means they are behind, Army Dude. But
defaults are up.
Yeah.
Defaults in loans are up, which blew my mind. Like, did they not? Who told them that they didn't? There's no reason why they should be in default at this moment because they could still file for forbearance. So someone didn't educate them about that, or they didn't understand the process. But they are up, especially for FHA loans. There are more people in default. Yeah. But with that even being said, they still cannot foreclose on their property. They can't even start the foreclosure process until the beginning of the end of June, what was it? June 31st of this year. And it takes months for those homes that have been foreclosed on to get back on the market. They have to go through all these other planning stuff. Even though these people haven't paid for, let's just say, over a year. I knew somebody that hadn't paid their mortgage in 5 years and still was living in the house.
Yeah. And the banks have to help you. According to that FHFA document, or I get it mixed up, Housing Federal Finance Authority, whatever it was, that document that came out, the banks have to help you. They don't have a choice in the matter right now. So if you have an FHA loan and you're in default, you've got lots of protections. So you got to know.
Well, that's a first. Because last time, I think they learned their lesson maybe the last time because they really boned people. It didn't really work out for their benefit, which was a shame.
No. Yep. The game. This time, they're trying to encourage people to stay in their houses. They saw what happened last time. And so that's what they're going to do. Try to keep you in your house.
Yep.
And honestly, most of those FHA loans have equity right now. So there's no reason for you to be foreclosed on. Just list it if you want to sell it.
Right. But I will say this, if you, I've seen it, I saw it before where people still had equity in their house and they got to that to the end because they hadn't made the payments, and the bank scooped up the last bit of equity. They made up fees just to scoop up the equity because they had missed payments, and they were like, nope, well, you missed payments, so you owe us this, and this, and they made up stuff, and there was nothing left. They basically walked away from a house, and the bank sucked up the last bit of equity those poor people had, which is terrible, but that's the bank's.
If you're in the middle of a foreclosure, the biggest thing you need to realize is you can't procrastinate when you're in the middle of a foreclosure. So I say this because during the downturn, I went from being a really successful real estate agent to being broke overnight in the last recession, like a lot of realtors that were in it back then. And what happened to me is we had a little lake house that we couldn't afford to keep. And so we lost it to foreclosure. But at the end of the day, even as an agent, I didn't know my options back then. Today, I'm a lot smarter. And if you're going through a foreclosure, have an investor in your back pocket, have somebody to keep you from having to go through that foreclosure. Because it's really, I'm talking from personal experience. It's hard to buy a car. It's hard to buy anything on credit after that foreclosure goes through. So it doesn't matter. Let's say you've been behind on your payments for a year. It doesn't matter. You can heal from that a lot faster than you can from letting the banks take your house. Mm-hmm. And the options that you have, they're not great necessarily, but an investor will buy your house for cash for the same price it would be sold for on the courthouse steps. No problem. Even more, maybe.
Yeah. Like people are like calling. People are like, we've seen that you've lived in this house we will buy it cash. Mm-hmm. You could literally go on some of these auction sites and call them up and say, like they have iBuyers and now buyers, and they'll just buy your house instantly with a quick close. So if you're in that much of a pickle, trust me, there's a buyer out there. Sure. Let's see. I wanted to put this up here because it was interesting. My friend is a realtor, and she said, don't even waste your time right now. She said, you're not going to find anything, especially with FHA right now. It's just discouraging. And I know what she's getting at is because of the fact that a lot of home buyers or home sellers are not accepting FHA loans because they're taking those conventional loans with high, down payments or, a lot of money over the amount. They'd rather take that less of a risky loan in the seller's eyes and the listing agent's eyes. They consider an FHA loan a more risky loan, which is stupid. It's all money. Everybody's qualified for the same. And I had a friend who had a VA loan who actually has like excellent credit and everything else, and they would not accept his offer because it was VA. And I'm like, you guys are idiots. He's not going anywhere. He's using a VA loan because he has the eligibility to use a VA loan. It's not because he's broke, like whatever.
Yeah, Valerie, there's like some strategies you can use too, right? Like put an obscene amount of earnest money down. Like your earnest money is protected in that contract, mostly through your due diligence period or repair, whatever it is in your market. I don't know how many years experience this agent has, but that's the way you kind of crack that code is just put more earnest money down. You get it back anyway if you don't buy the house, as long as you're in your timeframes and everything contractually. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't say, if somebody brought me a contract with $10,000 in earnest money on FHA, and a conventional was $1,500, it's gonna cause me as the seller to think twice about that person. And then if you write a note, and again that
you can't do it anymore.
You what?
You cannot write notes anymore.
You can't.
No, they consider against fair housing.
I wondered. Well, I knew that was kind of up in the air. Has something come down on that I missed?
Well, the National Association of Realtors has said that love letters open up to interpretation of steering, and it can cause discrimination towards the home buyer buying the house. Because someone could say, well, because I have children, and the next couple could say, well, I don't have children. They're like, well, I'll give it to them because they have children. So then it becomes like, well, what makes them more worthy than this person? So it becomes a problem of discrimination in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So they no more love letters. You can't take love letters.
Well, I would say, Valerie, then I would be just kind of stalking the house until somebody comes outside and talk to them. Maybe
start hanging out with the neighbors at a barbecue. Yeah.
Somebody put in a good word for me.
Put out cookies out everywhere. Show up to HOA meetings. Like, I don't live here. I just want to be a part of the team.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's like I don't want people to feel like I'm making fun of them at this point. It's not that. It's just this market is so incredibly stupid that you have to kind of make a joke about it so you don't cry about it. Like most real estate agents right now aren't selling anything because there's nothing to sell. We're literally sitting at home going, okay, like that's great. I can't, I have a ton of buyers. I keep sending out properties that are gone instantaneously, but most of us are bored right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think agents want it to be over too, because they can't even rest. As soon as a house comes on the market, 14 people are calling them to go see it, right? It's not even, they can't even take a vacation right now.
No, but I will say that one of the funniest things I have noticed is that, like at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was putting these, sold in 4 hours or sold in 2 days. And now nobody's even putting that up. I'm like really, we should be giving the buyer's agent, like, she won this. She knew how to put a contract together. Instead of showing the house, show the agent that did the right kind of contract to win the deal.
Yeah.
Question: How connected is the condo co-op apartment market in places like Austin, New York, Las Vegas compared to the craziness that is playing out in the housing market? Do you guys have any ideas about that? Do you, Terry?
How connected is the condo and co-op market?
Because you remember what happened with the last crash, whenever, Miami was building up all these condos and everything else. I mean, it was building after building right along the beach, one right after another. People were buying into them. And then you would have people, then the crash hit and it was like this. So you had people, there would be like maybe only 10 people in this gigantic high-rise condo community. And then they had nothing. Like there was nobody moving in because nobody was buying homes. The reason I think that's different is I'm not seeing that level of building that we had in those years. There isn't numerous co-ops and condominiums and all those things being built right now because there's no materials to build them. So we don't have an oversaturation of new construction anywhere, as far as I know of, especially in places like New York, Austin, and even Las Vegas. Even Las Vegas was one of those things that had overbuilt before the housing market. And so, no, I don't see that happening like it did in years past. What is your opinion, Terry?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cranes downtown Atlanta, but I think it's more reactionary building as opposed to speculative building, just like you said.
Right. We had especially in Florida, there was so much craziness, like stupid, like, why are they putting a condo right there? Like we have 3 other ones right there. Is that many people going to be renting right now? Or it was nuts. Let's see. Let's pull up another question here. I'm sorry. I don't know why this happens. I don't know what it is about you that makes my electricity go out.
It's not going out again, is it?
No, it wouldn't matter. I have the if it kicks back on, which is great, but I have a whole house generator, and so it runs the whole house when the electricity goes out. If you live in the South, that's exactly what happens. The FOMO crowd will give away their entire future for over the top prices to get a house today when that 40 to 60% drop comes, it's the lights out for the FOMO crowd. Do you think it's going to be 40 to 60%? What are your feelings, Terry? Do you see a 40 to 60% drop in the housing prices?
I mean, that would be a little crazy. I've studied a lot of housing data, and I've not seen any of that in the norms, right? You've got the coasts that go up wildly, they come down wildly. San Diego, Miami, the East Coast, whatever. But 40 to 60%, there needs to be a pretty big event that happens to cause that.
That's what I keep saying. It would have to be a significant event that makes it happen, even like people, because they were like, it's going to happen this year. I'm like, there would have to be something that happened pretty drastically for that to happen this year. Yeah. With that being said, I still think it's going to go down. I don't think it's going to go down as much as it even did in 2008 and 2009. Let me just say, I'm on the fence about that because no one believed it would go down as much as it did because they kept giving us a lot of like bells and whistles kind of data at the beginning of the housing crash, and they're like, no, everything's gonna be fine. Ben Bernanke was like, no, it's insulated. It's an insulated problem. We're not gonna have a problem. Like, he's on record saying this. So, like, do we know everything that's happening behind closed doors? No, but I still can't see it going down 60%. Even I lived in the Florida market at the time when this happened. That guy who bought our house, he bought our house for like 245, 250. And when he went to sell it, he sold it for 180. That was a lot. It was a lot, but that was in the worst, that was the dumbest market in that housing crisis. That was the ones that had gone up way too high. That's that Florida market. So I don't know. There was a question that I missed because my Eddie, do you remember who the question was from that had asked the question? It was from Boiled Nuts. Boiled Nuts, do you mind putting your question in again? Because I missed it because my electricity went out. I swear we pay our light bill. No, that's our generator. Okay. Do you think more people, millennials, will stay at home with their parents like other countries? I'm going to tell you what, Terry, I'll start this one because I can't help myself. I know that here, and it's very popular here, that people live close to their families. They even will buy a whole entire street and have their whole family all the way down. And I have noticed that more people are buying homes together. It isn't just that the kids are staying at home. They're actually purchasing a home, like grandma, mom, dad. They're all pitching in on one mortgage and they're all living together. I don't know if that's what the wave of the future is, but I have noticed that more specifically here. Have you noticed that in your area, Terry?
No, not so much here. Although out in the suburbs, in the rural areas, you'll see people that buy acreage, right? And they put 2 or 3 homes on them for family members or whatever. I keep thinking about me. If I was a millennial, when I was that age, I didn't want to be home with my parents. I wanted to be out on my own and, raising kids and doing that thing. I think as the millennials get older, maybe that becomes, taking care of mom and dad. I don't know. I don't see that happening as much. Now you saw that back in the Great Recession, like millennials, when they were graduating in 2009 to 2012, they couldn't find jobs. So they moved back in with mom and dad temporarily until they could get that whole thing squared away. Millennials actually account for, I think, half or just over half of all home sales today.
Yeah, but that's because they spent that time living in their parents' basement and saved their money. And in their mind, they're like, I'm never going to buy a home. And now they're like, you know what? I'm going to buy a home. Because I remember at that time, they're like, I'm not going to go through what my parents went through. I'm not buying a home. And I remember that was like a big thing, like, oh, the millennials are leaving. They're not going to come back, Yeah, they're going to come back. Josh has a question. My apartment complex is raising rates next year, $50 a month. This is a double from last year. Do you think this is because of COVID? Do you think they know people will stay because of the market? Probably, and that's the thing about any place you rent from. I don't know if you have like rent control in your area, but we do not. In some areas they do, but once you're renting, they have the right to increase your rent as much as they want to. And if they know they have you stuck there, and it could be they're doing that to offset some of the people that haven't been paying rent because of moratoriums. So they're trying to get back some of the money that they've lost during this time. So for next year, yeah, they can do it. It stinks. They can do it. Another thing is that, if you live in a manufactured home park, you rent the land underneath it, and they can change the rules that say you sign the rules on Tuesday, on Thursday, they can change all of those rules and you still have to abide by them, or they can kick you out of that manufactured home park. And then they can change them at any time, and they can change the rates of the rent at any time. It isn't like they have to wait a year or anything else. So I always tell people, always read how often they change their rents and when they have said that they're going to change them. But
sometimes, it's just a business decision. The owner of the apartment complex, if he raises the corporation raises the rent $50 a unit, it makes the apartment complex more valuable. So if they could go sell it at a higher multiple, they get more money for it. because each unit is generating this much profit. So, a lot of it's something that just doesn't seem right. But there's business people controlling all those decisions a lot of times. So,
woo, we got a $20 super chat from J.R.
wow,
Moore.
nice. Thank you, J.R.
Nice.
Moore. That's awesome.
He says he appreciates everything you do. I think that he's talking about you.
I think he's talking about you.
No, I think he's talking about you. You're Terry, the real estate guy. And I always say Terry, my favorite real estate guy. My city now has mandatory SAKE price disclosure to amp up the property taxes. Anybody else experiences this? Is this common? I've never heard this. Have you heard of this?
Mandatory
SAKE price.
What is a SAKE price?
I don't know. Maybe that was a misspelling. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what that means. Retype your question.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And it's usually my fault because I can't read. I technically can, but I'm the worst reader ever. Did we do this one? What mid-city to large city still has homes available? If my wife and I relocate for work, where could I find a reasonably priced home? Right now, areas that I would have normally said, oh, check out Tennessee and check out Greenville, South Carolina, and check out, like those would have been the, what I would consider reasonable areas that you can get a nice home with some, pretty good weather. They've gotten pretty expensive, but I also predict those are the same areas that are going to see the biggest drops in price faster because they're not areas that have grown exponentially due to technology or infrastructure moving to that specific area. Big tech companies move to those areas. I still say there's some good deals that be found in South Carolina. I like South Carolina. There's some good deals that be found there.
Yeah, I mean, we invest heavily in Greenville. Anderson, South Carolina is a kind of a quaint little town. I mean, look at your city, your metropolis, right? And then go out about 45 minutes to an hour. And there's all these little towns that kind of border on rural/suburban. And depending what your lifestyle is, you can find one that fits really well. That's why I'm in love with small mid markets that are growing, like Huntsville, Greenville, Columbia, South Carolina, just little areas that, most people haven't heard of. And you think, Little Rock, Arkansas, what? Yeah. I mean, check out all the data, right? Like on, people think, and I think people from the Northeast and the Midwest think Arkansas, what's that? Alabama, that doesn't sound, I would never live there. It's beautiful, y'all. I mean, it's just stunning.
I am obsessed with the Ozarks in Arkansas. That area of Arkansas is absolutely breathtaking. And I'm like, I'd live there. And people are like, I thought the Ozarks were only in Missouri. Well, I did too, until I drove through it in Arkansas. I didn't know through Arkansas is absolutely stunning. And like beautiful views, crystal clear lakes. I mean, I would love to jump in that water. Like you don't jump in water here unless you want to get eaten by a snake or alligator, but I would jump in the water in Arkansas. Some of those lakes out there are absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. So yeah, check out Arkansas, check out the Ozarks. It's pretty expensive because when we drove through there, they have this one area. I mean, there's Starbucks and everything. You can tell that it's an area that they have made for tourists. And I was checking out how much houses were there. I'm like, well, they're kind of pricey here. But what you would consider pricey and what I consider pricey could be totally different. But
because I think you're right. Like Anderson, South Carolina, I saw a completely renovated, really beautiful brick ranch that would go for $450,000 in my market. And Anderson, South Carolina, it was $200,000. So I mean, there's affordable everywhere. You just have to figure out if it works for your lifestyle.
I'm trying to see if she, for sale. Okay. That's what she meant. Sale price. That's what she meant. Remember the question we had earlier?
Oh yeah. Sale price.
He has mandatory sale price disclosure to amp up the property taxes. Anybody experiences this? This common. Have you heard of that before? Mandatory sales price?
Yeah, because we invest. We sell a lot of properties every year, and I get these things from the county commissioner's office that say it's mandatory that you fill this out. I never fill them out. No one's ever, I'm like, what happens if I don't fill it out? That's really what I want to know. And no one's ever,
ripping the sticker off the mattress,
no
like they
one's
say.
ever, no one's ever knocked on my door. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, the federal sticker.
Yeah. I
Don't
mean,
it
I don't
says
own the house
federal
anymore.
law.
It doesn't matter. Like, you can't make me do something because I don't own the house. So,
Yeah, that must be it must be much more populated areas. That isn't in my little town
yeah.
outside of Baton Rouge here.
They're
How
right though. That's the reason. It's to increase property taxes and to know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that, Canada's had actual price freezes on houses where you couldn't sell your house for X amount of money more than you bought it for, because the housing prices had increased so much. I had a guy named Brad McCallum on here. I don't know if you've ever seen his channel. He makes like these most beautiful listing videos you've ever seen. And he was telling me about that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. That really stinks for people. But it hasn't really curbed the problem. They still have people buying houses way overpriced. So, honey, the bunny foo-foo, little bunny foo-foo.
Cool channel. Yeah.
How long do container homes last? They're steel. I mean, they're built to last forever. Matter of fact, in places like Haiti and Puerto Rico, where they're hit by hurricanes often, they're much more reliable as a housing option to replace a lot of these houses that have been blown away from hurricanes in the past. And they're drilling them into the ground because they're built to last. I mean, they're made from steel. So they're meant to be on a shipping container, though. They're on a ship that's running around back and forth, back and forth. They're meant to be in high seas. They're not meant to live in. So that's where the problem is when it comes to having them permitted. I like them. I think they're great.
And they do rust. I mean, it takes a long time for one to rust, but if you watch any of the container home videos like I do, they're like, oh, we got to fix this rust or whatever because it's an older container. But and if you put it up against the dirt, it's going to rust a lot faster. So make sure you waterproof it and do all the things you need to do.
There is paint that you can put that literally is a protector from rust. Even a friend of mine, he put it on his van. It's this Raptor paint.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it is the same kind of paint that they use to spray truck beds. In order so you could slide your stuff in there. You can use that for the outside of a container home, and that will forego getting rust on your container home really well. Expensive paint, but it's totally worth the money to put that on there.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. Should be legal to buy single-family homes unless you live in them for at least 6 months a year, cutting investors clean out.
Tom doesn't like me.
Oh, Tom doesn't like you?
It doesn't sound like it.
Well,
investors serve a really valuable place in the marketplace, however, I think.
Right. But I understand where Tom is coming from, because investors have ruined markets before too. Mm-hmm. They keep buying and flipping and buying and flipping, and they've ruined housing markets because they do this stuff and they do crappy work and they don't come back. And, I'm not saying all investors, of course not, but I've seen my fair share of home flippers ruin a housing market, ruin it. All right, let's see here. All right. I'm trying to hit the little button here. Any recommendations for small, mid-size outdoor progressive mountain towns, ski, mountain bikes and lakes? Well, I don't know how affordable you want, but I know Colorado is a beautiful, I love Colorado. That's one of my favorite places. Again, the Ozarks, you can always check out the Ozarks. What is your recommendations?
In the Southeast, I think the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina, and the up, that mountainous area through there. Tons of really beautiful lakes and mountains and very small ski areas, not like what you see out in Utah, of course, but you can still ski down hills and they get snow every once in a while. I'm with you. Colorado's incredible. I hear that places like Montana and the Dakotas, I don't know if there's any skiing though over there. And is there skiing in the Dakotas?
There's nothing but snow there. So yes.
Yeah.
But see, my family, part of my family was from Like they live in Montana and they lived in Wyoming, and they like snow in August. They have like their first snowfall in August. Who wants that? Like that's a lot. That's some dedication to some cold weather when you get into those areas. But I will tell you, places like Utah and even Montana, their prices, especially in resort towns, have exploded way like 20, 25, 35% in some areas. And they're not predicting it going down because these people are buying it cash. They're not even doing mortgages. They're buying them straight cash, $400,000, $500,000 properties cash. So it's not going to fall apart in those little resort towns. The housing market isn't. So I like those areas. I just couldn't live there year round in places like Montana. I love the cold, don't get me wrong, but to have cold 9 months out of the year, that's too much.
Oh, it's funny. I like how everybody's kind of chiming in on what they think. Like Billings, Montana, Big Sky.
Big Sky's beautiful.
Little debate about Albany going back and forth. You guys are funny.
I've got a good crew. I have a good crew of people that show up for the live streams. I have to tell you, I enjoy the live streams very much because what the best part about the live streams, even though we're having a conversation, it spins another conversation within the live stream itself. So it's always kind of fun to have people, having their little, they make friends. We're making friends here.
Yeah, that's right.
Van Lee says, I am trying to refinance my 2-bedroom condo in Freeport, Maine. Oh, beautiful. Love Maine. Currently, it's a rental, but having a hard time due to the primary investment property. Any ideas how to go about that? I'm trying to refinance my 2-bedroom condo in Freeport, Maine. Currently, it's a rental, but it's okay. Okay. So she owns it. It's a rental. It's her rental property. And somebody's in there that's renting it. They're having a hard time because it's not the primary investment property. We're refinancing some rental properties right now, but we've had so much equity in it. They're not even like questioning it. That would have to be a lender question. I wouldn't know how to answer that. Do you?
And I have a couple ideas for you there, Van. One is you certainly can go the Fannie Freddie conventional route, right? And do a government-backed mortgage on a rental property. You're right. You have to have 25% equity depending. But then there are some companies out there, you pay a little bit higher rates. And maybe this defeats the whole purpose, right? But you pay a little bit higher rate, and they basically don't look at your financials so much as they look at the asset and how it's performing. So if it's performing well, they base it off the debt service cover ratio, and that's how they look at it. And they just look at it as an income generator. Should we lend on it based on these numbers? They don't look at your credit score. They don't look at any of that stuff. And we're refinancing 4 or 5 properties like that because we can be at about 4.5%, 4%, which is, a percentage point worse than what I have, but I can refinance 7 or 8 properties at the same time under one portfolio if I want to. And so you could certainly work with somebody like that. I can give you, let's see, Dominion is one. There are plenty of them out there. Just kind of Google DSCR lenders and see who.
Everybody knows the name Dominion, not related to related to counting votes, not the same company.
Oh, that is. Yeah.
As soon as you said that, I immediately thought voting machines. No.
Yeah.
Questions. Are rates still going up, or was that a fluke? Okay, this is my opinion about this, and you can put your 2 cents in, Terry. I predict that the rates will continue. They'll do this for a little bit. They're going to go up again, and they're going to get to a point where they're kind of stupid high for a minute, and then they're going to go right back down again. That's my prediction.
Yeah, it's funny. I was working hard on when they kind of went up about 0.5 point, and I was working on a YouTube video. And as soon as I had all my research done, rates started to go down again. So I tabled the video. But yeah, they're going to be a roller coaster ride until they're not. Yep.
And like that's the whole thing is everybody's trying to time it perfectly. But if you have everything and all your ducks in a row now is perfect. If you found the perfect house, you're able to buy it, you get an offer accepted on it, and you're willing to pay that amount of money, then you found the perfect deal.
And some of you out there are wired to win, right? Like we just want to win. We want to get that lowest rate. We feel like we win that way, or we want to get this house. We feel like we win. So if you're competitive, yeah, that's a hard thing for competitive people to do. You just really do need to settle in and go long term. Let me look at myself 10 years from now. Am I going to be happy with this rate and with this house? Or am I going to freak out about every little thing? Because I'd struggle with that personally. So I'm trying to give some encouragement to people out there that want to win all the time.
It's one of those things too. I felt honestly, when we moved out of Florida, I was like, I am a real estate genius. I saw the writing on the wall. I saw when the homes stopped selling, and I knew exactly when to sell it. But honestly, I didn't know exactly when to sell it because the housing market had started to go down. It was just starting to go down. So I didn't sell at the top of the market. I sold when it was starting to go down. So I wasn't that big of a genius. But at the time, I thought I was so much smarter than everybody else. Question: what is the reason for building material shortages, and what is being done to get caught up with the demand? There's a few reasons. You can give one and I'll give one. Go ahead, Terry. You give your first one.
Okay. Oh, I need to think of the main. I have two big things in my head. One, the simple thing from COVID, right? Factories shut down, and that's one reason. They're not producing enough material. And the real estate market, right, is going up, and those two things are in contrast to each other. So that's the main reason for me.
Second thing was lumber prices. Lumber had been slowed down because of COVID. The price of lumber had gone up because all commodities went up during this specific time. And once lumber production started again, they had to take those materials and send it to places that had had lots of damage due to natural disasters. Like in California, they had the fires. That wood has to go to those people first because they are out of their homes and they have to rebuild. Then you had all the hurricanes that went through Texas and Louisiana here, and then in the middle of the country, they had something that was very similar to a hurricane. It looked like a hurricane, felt like a hurricane, and it blew out all the houses out in Iowa, where they lost a lot of corn and livestock and all sorts of stuff. So that lumber has to go to those specific areas first. And a lot of people, there just isn't enough to go around. Not only that, when people were home, they were building at home. They were like, oh, that deck project, let's go ahead and put in a deck. I always wanted to have an extra room back there. Let's go ahead and make an office. So all those little tiny projects that normally people were putting off, they decided to do during the pandemic because they were home. So do you have any other ones you want to throw in there?
I think one more big piece that, not a lot of people talk about is houses weren't being built between 2009, call it, and 2011 and 12. And so builders couldn't get bank loans. And so, part of the reason we're in a housing shortage today is to blame because of what happened in the last recession. There was already a housing shortage in 2006. That's one nice thing. They can kind of predict the needs of the public as you move forward through the census. And what happened was they weren't lending to builders in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. Well, when builders finally started kicking in 2012, 2013, we were already behind the eight ball with the number of houses that we needed. So even that pushed that forward too. And it's the perfect storm of why lumber, windows, whatever else we need, drywall has gone up.
There is not one aspect of the house of building a home that hasn't gone up. Roofing materials like shingles and everything else, that has gone up. OSB board, when you use, a lot of people, they use them in cabinets and all sorts of stuff. When it comes to building a house, that has gone up. We've had what else did we have go up? There are like nails, roofing, nails, everything. I don't know of one aspect of building a house that hasn't gone up. Not one. Here, this is people are renting out their driveways, backyards, and even their garage, and the prices are increasing daily. I'm headed south, so as soon as I wrap up unfinished business I have here. Well, there isn't a lot to find in the South. If you're going to Austin, you can forget about it. There isn't anything in Austin. But I will say they're outside of that major city, like you were saying, drive 45 minutes outside of Austin. I know that like even those areas around Austin have been growing exponentially. Like there's a place called Fluterville. It's spelled with a P, but over there, and it's still like they're still very expensive, and they're having a hard time because of the offset of so many people cannot being able to buy in Austin. They're using those little other areas outside. But can you imagine once the traffic gets back into shape here, like the driving during the pandemic, it only took you 30 minutes to get to work. But once everybody starts getting back on the roads again, and it's going to take them an hour and a half, they're going to have FOMO, like they're going to have opposite of FOMO. They're going to be ticked because they're like, I'm driving an hour, 45 minutes just to get to work because the traffic started back.
It's already back here. I can't believe it, but it seems like it's just where it was before. And I think too, is this the time? Everybody's got a different life, and you've got to write your story. But is it time to if you want to sit this one out, right? Somebody mentioned it in the comments earlier. The idea of renting an RV and traveling, if you're able to do that and still work, and just travel and kind of wait for the market to kind of chill out a little bit and then jump back in it when you want. But now's the time to really think about a lot of alternatives.
I love talking about alternative housing, and I think that everybody can own a little piece of the American dream. But if you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life, and you're young and you want to sell off everything and get an RV and travel around the United States, I admire those people that have that courage to do something like that. And if you have kids, they get an experience they'll never forget. At the beginning of the pandemic, I saw lots of people that were doing this. They were selling their house and they got in an RV, and because everything was online, they were willing to teach their kids on the road, and they got to see the whole United States during the time, and there was hardly any traffic. I'm like, that is so cool. That is so cool. I still have my biggest dream, my future, my goal sheet is I want to get to Portugal. I'm going to go there to visit, but my ultimate retirement spot right now in my head without visiting it is Portugal. That's where I want to go, because that is a cool little country. Third safest country in the world, by the way.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that video.
I would sell everything and retire to Portugal.
Yeah, that was a good one. It's beautiful. It looks beautiful.
Have you been?
No, I watched your video though. It looks awesome.
It's so pretty. It's so pretty. And they've got it like totally geared for expats from, English speaking countries. So you wouldn't be like, because you don't know Portuguese, you wouldn't be completely out of the loop, Then they're willing to work with you. But Texas, outside of Texas, what are you laughing at?
The White Knight, his comment. Sorry. Just made me laugh.
I have an extra bunk for rent in my semi, $200 a month, free heat and water plus Wi-Fi. Okay, the White Knight. Let me know. I'll be on my way. I'm ready for an adventure. I don't know how my husband would feel about it, but let's go. Let's do it. Making it happen. 2021. Why not? I'm vaccinated. Let's do this. All right. It looks like we're getting off the rails. Do you want to leave anybody with anything? Terry, the real estate guy, do you want to tell anybody anything good? Leave them with some happy thoughts.
Yeah, I do. I know we all, Kristina and I both make YouTube videos and try to be educational, but be careful the titles and all that stuff that you see out there. Like there's a lot of stuff going on and people trying to predict these things, and always ask, okay, who are these people? What do they know? Should I trust them? Do I have a reason to believe them? And just use your brain when you're researching this kind of stuff. Go to Redfin. Honestly, I think Kristina and I maybe agree on this, that we will see the storm clouds coming, or we're going to have a catastrophe. Like the only way, like somebody said earlier, 40-60% drop in housing prices. Like a pandemic, I've told people this for a long time, that's not the only thing that could happen bad to us. It could be pandemic. It could be pandemic combined with 2 or 3 other things, right? And so, just kind of watch life and make educated decisions, and, take your life and don't let somebody else influence you and your decision-making process. Get good wisdom and guidance, but, be careful what you're watching out there.
And like every time I've ever made a housing crash video, I literally still see the same things that I saw that are happening in 2006, 2007, 2008. And it took us 10 years to get out of that bubble. All my housing crash videos were just highlighting the things that I have seen in the past. With that, they had made extensions to the forbearance allowance for home buyers. So what I predicted what was going to happen in 2021 isn't going to happen this year because they kept extending those forbearances. That's why I no longer am doing housing crash videos, because I would be lying to you just to get the clicks to get people to watch my videos. And I've noticed there's been a few channels that have started where literally every single video is about doom and gloom, crash. They're basically lying to you. They're giving you numbers and they're skewing the actual numbers, what those numbers mean. Yes, there is more homes currently in that are delinquent on FHA. They still can't foreclose on them. They still can't foreclose on them. They still cannot do that until the beginning or the end of June. So it's going to take months before you see a wave of foreclosures hit the market. And I know that's not what a lot of people want to hear, especially when they've been waiting for a home for all this time. But Terry and myself and even Javier, I think we're all on the same page that, this isn't the time to be scared about your equity in your home falling through the roof. I do want to say one more thing, though. If the banks are telling you that you can't get a HELOC, they don't have faith in the equity in your homes either. Just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. I'm telling you what I know and I've seen in the past and how I'm reflecting on it right now here in the future. So that's it. I hope everybody has a fantastic Terry, thank you once again for taking over the stream when my power goes out. That generator is still running. We had a big storm that came through.
I'm not sure I'll be back on as a guest because I really think you're going to connect the dots here. I'm somehow in Atlanta messing around with your power. I don't know.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. I think I should just give you ultimate control and then you run it from your house. And then that way if my electricity goes out, it's not a big deal. And you can start pulling up questions on your own. Oh, there is one more question because it was a serious one. Floyd has a serious question. A friend of mine, who I trusted like a brother and more than my mother, told the dollar value dropping causing a lot of problems. Is that true? The value of your dollar today is going to be less than tomorrow. And every day that you wake up, the value of your dollar currently is going to be less than it was the day before that.
Yeah, and it's causing problems. We talked about all the material price, right? That is the problem. I mean, inflation's a problem right now. So.
Yep. It's not going to get any better that I can see anytime soon with inflation. That's why I don't see the housing prices dropping either. So, and who could have predicted that? You couldn't have predicted that 6 months ago.
Maybe you could have one of your local university economists or something on the show to teach about inflation.
Boring though. Honestly. True. And I'm kind of a goofy person. And when I try to make good jokes and they're just kind of looking at you like, I can't do that. I need Mr. Personality. You're my economist. You're much better at the number part of it than I am. I understand what it means. I don't necessarily can't say it very well. That's why I'm not a school teacher. Well, everyone, I want to say thank you. And thank you again, Terry. Please come on once a month. I'm dead serious. You're one of my favorite guests.
So nice.
If you would love to come on once a month, everybody tell Terry, beg Terry, say, please, Terry, come on here once a month so we can ask Terry questions.
I'm happy to come on once a month if you need me. So yeah.
I do.
Let me know I'm there.
Yay. Well, you're my friend and I enjoy having you. All right, Terry, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic week. On Tuesday, my video is coming out, and it's going to be about buying a manufactured home from a manufactured home lot and the things that you should be avoiding, and if they're trying to scam you or not. So you're going to want to miss that one. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on the way out, and have a fantastic week. Bye, everybody. Wave goodbye, Terry.
See y'all.
Bye.